Hey guys, we are in chapter 13, annotating Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. So in this one, we have a Quidditch match. We have nightmares that Harry is now getting. The mirror has been moved, and we have another Quirrell versus Snape situation. All right, so let's get into it. We also have a little bit of backstory between Nicholas Flamel and Albus Dumbledore. There's a little bit of a sneak peek again with the foreshadowing, but so I want to make this clear again. If you're new to this series, I have been annotating this book chapter by chapter to show that you cannot separate art from the artist and that bigotry bleeds in. So first of all, with that being said, there is a mention of another dark wizard who was defeated in 1945. I forget what the exact name was, Grindelwald, I think it was. And it was Albus Dumbledore and Nicholas Flamel defeating him. Again, mentioning in 1945. This is very specific to when Hitler was defeated, okay? So we have a little bit of an overlap there. But now we have Voldemort, right? Who keeps popping up and his ways, and that's not good. All right, so first of all, after Harry has discovered this mirror from chapter 12, he's now beginning to get nightmares, and he is getting, there's a flash of green light, screaming, a cackle, an evil cackle, and then his parents disappear. So my belief is the way that this was written, because again, foreshadowing, is that JK has, the mirror triggered this, one of Harry's earliest memories, right? A very dark memory. And again, we're going to see these pieces come back up within other elements of the series. The green light, the cackling, the screaming, the disappearance of his parents. So it's triggered this memory, but he's seeing it as a nightmare. All right. Second of all, as they're still kind of thinking of Flamel and we're sort of taking a break, it was because of Neville, yes, Neville, who helped them discover why they knew that name. So Neville had been bullied, because of course Malfoy has to bully. Bullying is never okay, let's make that clear. Malfoy bullies Neville. Neville bunny hops because his legs are stuck together by a spell. And Harry was very kind enough to give him his last chocolate frog. And Neville said, hey, do you want this card? I know you collect them. And that's when Harry was looking at the card. It was Albus Dumbledore, and it clicked in his mind that's where he first learned of Nicholas Flamel. Again, giving the history that Flamel and Dumbledore had created the Resurrection Stone and had defeated Grindelwald in 1945. Okay, so a little bit of backstory. They also specifically mentioned partner. Now, I don't know for sure if Rowling was meant to lead us into that Dumbledore was gay, okay? She did later on say that Dumbledore was gay and he had partners and stuff like that. This could very well be that situation and kind of her way of like hey, like, he was meant to be like this, and like, here's an example, right, of her trying to not be a TERF, you know, because she's against trans people. I don't know if that's really what it's giving. I'm only mentioning this because, of course, we're talking about bigotry and how it bleeds into her work. But partner could also be like they were friends and they were coworkers, right? So, yeah, I don't know. Anyway, just a thought. All right, lastly, we have Quirrell versus Snape. This is the second time that they're having a private meeting. We didn't really talk about it in the last chapter, but that was one of the times. And we didn't hear what they were saying because Harry found the empty room with the mirror. But in this time, because they're suspicious of Snape, right? And the way that Snape acts and is very mean towards Gryffindor specifically, but especially Harry, because of who his mother, well, he's looking after him because of his mother, but because of his father, he doesn't like him. Anyway, we hear their discussion where Snape is trying to figure out if Quirrell knows how to get past the three-headed dog, Fluffy. Snape is trying to figure out how much Quirrell knows because he knows that Quirrell has Voldemort as part of him, right? And Snape, again, foreshadowing, right? We don't find this out until the very last book. Snape was playing a double spy, basically. He was spying on the Death Eaters. He was spying for the good Dumbledore, right? So that they knew what was happening and they could protect everything that needed to be protected. I think it's important that we note that, right? We are seeing Snape as this villain. Or at least the majority of us saw him as a villain until that point. What we're not seeing is that we have Quirrell, who's the true villain. Well, he's being controlled by Voldemort, right? And so there's manipulation. So they're taking things out of context when it comes to Snape, understandably, right? Because sometimes you have people who look super friendly and are not. Then you have people that don't look super friendly and are. You know, like, you have a mix of people, right? And that's just kind of how Snape was, but he had to do his job. And he had to really play this deep, dark role, even though at his heart, he wasn't truly this person. I think more than anything, he was depressed because he had a love of Lily and she didn't see him the same way. But also, let's also mention that Snape always wanted the Defense Against the Dark Arts job, right? And it was noted that he didn't get it, and it kept going to other people. But he was the potions professor. We're gonna see more foreshadowing and hints to past, present, and future, right, in other books and in other chapters. But we have to remember that this is what good writing does, right? We're invested in these characters. We're invested in what is happening. We are not always seeing the foreshadowing. We're not always seeing the back history, right? I've read this book probably 100 times, you know, long before I knew how bigoted JK was. And I still get something out of it, right? And even now, as I'm annotating, like, I'm getting good things and I'm also getting bad things, right? Like, we're going over, hey, look, like, here's a part in this chapter, right, where I didn't even catch it originally, where Dumbledore and Flamel defeated another dark wizard in 1945. Again, the timeline lines up with Hitler in Nazi Germany. And then again, that goes into some of her other works with Newt Salamander and stuff. So, yeah. Anyway, that is the end of chapter 13. Thank you guys for tuning in with me. Much love to you all, and I'll see you guys in the next video.